Hello, hello, everybody. Welcome back to On the Fringe. This is Dave. I'm here with Gavin.
Hey, hey, hey.
And last time, I should say, we talked about the end of the world as we know it. I still feel fine. And today we're going to be talking about Donald Trump's new country club, aren't we, Gavin?
We are. We're talking about the Board of Peace. Now, the Board of Peace is a very odd instrument. It was originally proposed a couple months back as part of a UN resolution to install a transitional governance mechanism in the Gaza Strip. And it was very controversial at the time. People were really not sure about it. And boy, if they were not sure about it a couple months ago, they're really not sure about it now because it has snowballed into a rather different thing than what was originally proposed. What are we looking at now, Dave?
Well, it looks like the Board of Peace that Donald Trump is constructing, it originally came from UN Security Council adaptation of Resolution 2803 supporting Trump's ceasefire plan. And Trump's new Board of Peace kind of takes that existing board that there's going to be a board overseeing the reconstruction of Gaza, and it adds a little bit of, I guess, what's the right word here? It adds a whole other layer of complexity to the board, where there's a new board that's going to be overseeing the board that is reconstructing Gaza. And this new board is going to be essentially a country club.
Essentially. So there's the overall Board of Peace, which is opened up to countries. That's being overseen by an executive board, and the executive board is overseeing the Gaza board. Now, the two executive boards that we just mentioned have four people in common, and there's some interesting people. Stephen Witkoff, Jared Kushner, Mark Rowan, who is the current or former head of Apollo, private equity company that's a little well known. And then the fourth guy is Tony Blair. I mean, it's an interesting selection of people, to put it mildly. They've got these two boards, then they've opened it up to countries. And the countries that were invited were very interesting. One had the invitation withdrawn, that was Canada. It's an interesting selection of countries that were invited. It was also an interesting selection of countries that weren't, which is a big chunk of the Middle East and pretty much all of Africa. Two countries in Africa were invited to the board. They both accepted, Egypt and Morocco. Everyone else, so that's like 52 countries, no go. They were just not asked. If you look at the Americas, Argentina and Brazil are the only countries south of the Rio Grande that were asked. Brazil was invited. I don't think they're going to agree to it. Argentina accepted. If you look at Western Europe, essentially every country in Western Europe has declined officially, including Italy, which is a little surprising. The other countries are not surprising to me at all. Dave, you just want to talk about the countries that accepted, or sorry, the countries that have signed the charter, because there was a charter to this thing.
Yep. So most of the countries that signed this charter are middle income countries. They're middle powers. So you've got Turkey, you've got Kazakhstan, Indonesia, Argentina, as Gavin mentioned, Morocco, also got Hungary, which signed. You have Azerbaijan as well, which signed. And you have other countries or territories like Kosovo that some countries don't recognize as being an actual country. Kosovo's government has signed this. So you have a very, very wide mishmash of powers that are signing and saying, well, yeah, we want to join. We want to join Trump's country club. And
Also, there are two,
we are
sorry,
willing to pony up $1
$1
billion.
billion.
Shibbly dibbly doo.
Shibley day. So, two countries that are worth mentioning that are also in the stew. Pakistan, which I think was one of the first countries to sign up, actually, and essentially every country in the Gulf. Every country that's a member of the GCC, except for Oman,
They're sitting on
is
theirs.
they're sitting on it. My suspicion is they're going to continue to sit on it, but that's also a country that's historically been neutral. All the other countries in the GCC, 6 countries, I believe, including Oman, has signed on. That's Saudi, that's Kuwait, that's Bahrain, that's Qatar, that's UAE. Not now those, it's worth noting, not middle income countries. And they're all in the mix. So again, as you say, it's a really interesting group. They've all been invited to the country club. If you want to be a permanent member, as you were saying, you have to pony up $1 billion, put it in a fund that's controlled by Trump, not controlled by anyone else, it's controlled by him. And it's still kind of unclear, whoa, what that gets you. Dave, what do you think countries would want in terms of getting a permanent seat on this thing? Which again is just well, we'll talk about more about what I think about it, but what do you think countries are looking for with this?
Well, this is a direct line to the White House, and it's a
Yeah.
seat at the table with the President of the United States. And in my opinion, I think Donald Trump is worried that he is going to lose the midterms. And I think he wants to remain politically relevant to the world, and he's trying to get this set up as quickly as possible
Hmm.
because he still wants to remain powerful in the event that he is impeached.
Yeah, and this is, I mean, again, it's an interesting organization. It's my line has been it's the League of Nations as viewed through the prism of The Apprentice. It's a odd duck. And again, I think it's evolved very fast in a very short period of time. And I think you've hit the nail on the head. This has become a vehicle for relevance on the part of President Trump, who's, trying to make this into a thing that will cement some kind of major legacy.
Mm-hmm.
I think the people who are joining it have probably a different view of what it is than he does. One of the key things that we both noticed is it does work as a country club, but the idea that it's going to be able to do much more is iffy. There's no enforcement mechanism in this thing. There's no, if you don't do X, this is going to happen to you.
Well, no, but
Um,
I think you look at the leaders in this, most of
yeah,
these leaders, I would say, are action oriented.
it's a polite way of putting it, but I tend to agree.
And I think if you have, quote, action oriented leaders and strong men at the helm of this,
Hmm.
I think you're going to have things that get done. And these leaders don't see themselves as being bound by international organizations and institutions like the UN.
Well, I mean, I was going to go a bit further, but I mean, I think you're right. I don't think these are people who generally, and this is the through line, to the people who are signing on to the charter, not the people who are invited. I think the people, and it is individuals, the people who are signing onto the charter, the leaders who are signing onto this charter, largely agree with the assessment that Trump has said publicly that he is not bound by international law. And I think the people who are joining onto this thing have that view of their own leadership, where they're going, we're not bound by these things. We can work outside of these institutions.
Mm-hmm.
And now we have this forum to coordinate outside of these structures. Now, is it successful? How do you measure success in this kind of a thing? I have no idea. It's injecting an element, I would say, of uncertainty. This is a very radically different way of perceiving international relations than what you have had for the last 80 years.
Yeah, and it's a to hell with what you've done for the last 80 years. Your way of doing things sucks, and we're going to do things our way. And it's
Yep.
very much thumbing your nose at the UN and at the international institutions that the UN has built up and the world has built up over the last 80 years and saying these are slow, these are inefficient, these are a waste of money, these are toothless. And we, these individual leaders of countries, can get more done instead of going to New York City by meeting one-on-one at the White House.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty um, accurate description. I think that's the idea. I think in practice, things are going to come up very quickly that are going to be very problematic.
Mm-hmm.
It's just my gut feeling. Uh, how any of this works, again, there's a lot of vagueness here.
Mm-hmm.
Enforcement mechanisms, internal processes, what the hell the money's going towards. It's just not clear.
Yeah.
And
And
if
one
clarity,
point
I
I want to make real
go
quick
go ahead.
before you go into that. So there's no requirement for any country that signs on to this to give up any sort of jurisdiction or, quote, to participate in a particular peace building mission without their consent, unquote.
It's the League of Nations problem. You can, and a lot of these countries have derided the UN as toothless, but the UN has enforcement mechanisms. And if you sign on to something, there is a degree of accountability. There's none of that here. If you're going, okay, well, you didn't do that thing, boo to you. There's no way to enforce or even everything's going to be done on an ad hoc basis. Like you said, these are regimes that are action oriented. So they're going to go, well, we're going to throw money at it. We're going to throw people at it. And my suspicion is the first time there's an at bat, it's not going to go well. By the way, that's the end of the sports metaphor there. My sports metaphors are not good.
We're done.
They're probably in the same way that whatever they do is not going to go very well. My sports metaphors also don't go very well. So this is something that we are absolutely, and I don't want, the more I read about this thing, the less I want to know. But we're going to be keyed in on this because this whole concept, whether or not it falls flat on its face or it keeps running for a while, is going to be absolutely pivotal to understanding in the next couple of years.
It will. And I think the key is going to be if you get countries to put money down.
Yeah.
And then once they actually establish bank accounts, once they actually establish legal teams, and once they actually establish some sort of a real framework,
Then we can start putting the heist together.
yeah.
One last job. Gavin Dave against the world. Anyways, back to what you were saying.
Anyway, I think you're going to see in the next couple of months, you got to follow the money. If there is
Yeah.
if there is no money
Yeah.
put down on this and there are no sort of transparent financial records of anything where the money is going, well, then you can just assume what's going
Yeah,
on.
yeah. I suspect. Yeah, I'm not putting money down, but I suspect that's what's going to happen. That's my guess. If you actually, and my guess would be that if anyone does it, it's probably going to be the Gulf first.
Oh yeah.
If you see money going into an actual institution, not that these are countries that love transparency, but if you see money going into an actual institution, I think my assessment of the thing is going to have to change. Now, until that happens, like a lot of things, whatever is getting said is not going to equal what's happening.
hmm
Because you can go, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. We've got this many people signed onto the charter, and there's no money, and there's no enforcement mechanism, and there's no one actually doing anything. Well, again, I think people can make their own assumptions. If, and I bet this will probably happen. If you have people from the administration going, well, people have put this much money down and there aren't any financial records, I think people will be able to put two and two together. Again, we'll see. This is new. This is not something, again, not really something you've seen for about 80 years. This is a pretty new thing. And it's going to be something we're keeping track of here on the fringe because boy, is this thing going to pop up in some odd places.
It is.
It
It could
is.
be it. No kidding. Could be revolutionary, or it could just be a bunch of fluff.
I mean, my issue is I think revolutionary. I'm not necessarily sure that it's a revolution I want to be a part of,
hmm
But we'll see. It's definitely you gotta wait. You gotta look at what's gonna happen out of this thing because again, not something of no relevance. Anyways, thank you so much for listening. It's an absolute pleasure to be back on the fringe here with my good friend Dave. And please like, comment, subscribe. We'd love to hear from you. This is On the Fringe. Dave, can you hit that button?
Before, thank you
Oh,
guys very much for listening and tuning in, and we'll see you on the next episode. Take care.
hit the button.